v.h.s.x? What do you mean?
Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I wanted to have a little bit of a yap session talking about a potential change that DBD could implement to possibly solve another issue that the game has. And specifically being like the bad map design that we have in the game. And one of those ideas that has circulated a little bit in the YouTube comments was an idea of a map vote, which I've been trying to kind of ponder that idea and really think it through and see if that's actually something that could be good for the game. And to try to, save time, I guess we can say. Like, on the surface, I thought it would be an interesting idea. We've seen other games do that, like Call of Duty. You could be in a lobby and you can actually vote between the two maps. I've seen in many different games do this, where they're able to, cast a vote on which of the two maps that they can choose from, or they can pick a third option for random. And from there, usually end up seeing like a few amount of maps constantly get voted for, and then there's like the bigger maps, bigger majority of maps that end up getting less, seen. I guess they get seen less. Now that is partially why I don't think a map vote would really be helpful for DBD, because as we know that the vast majority of the maps are not great, especially for M1 killers, which, I know that's possibly obvious, but I do want to bring it up anyway, because it is an issue that I don't think is covered enough, in my opinion. And I usually try to bring that up as quickly as I can when talking about these conversations, because that's usually what is an issue that is applicable in this situation. For maybe, and it's probably not even discussed that much as well, because I'm pretty sure most people are not playing like the lowest tiers in this game. Like, they're not gonna, I don't think the vast majority are on Skull Merchant, Trapper, and Ghostface. And I don't think the vast majority are on like Pig and you name it, like whatever other low tier you could think of. I don't imagine that the vast majority are playing these characters. They're usually going to be playing a B tier killer and up. Like, I would imagine to the vast majority, a B tier is essentially the lowest they'll go, and then the rest get forgotten. And so that's why I want to bring up the fact that, bad maps do affect at least half of the roster, and I think that it's an important topic to discuss because of it. Now, touching specifically on map bans, I don't think it'll be that good of an idea because of the issue, obviously, with the voting itself. Because then you'll end up getting a lot of maps that just will not get seen. And then from there, it's going to be pretty hard to try to get people to go to those maps without completely removing that system in the first place. Now, the opposite perspective of that is that you will get the positive effect of knowing, giving behavior data, knowing which maps need to get changed. However, they've already conducted surveys before. They've already stated that they had maps in mind that they wanted to update. And to this point, I don't even think maps like Garden of Joy or the swamp maps have ever been adjusted. I think at this point, I think with Garden of Joy, they changed one wall and in the main building, and that was about it. But but that map is like disgustingly one-sided, and it's not for killer, unfortunately. So yeah, it's definitely very, very difficult. Now, touching on the idea that there are other solutions that could be implemented into this game. And one thing that is a lot slower, one idea that's a lot slower, is trying to adjust the lower tiers to be in line with the newer characters that come out. And the problem with that is obviously balancing takes a very long time, and behavior is extremely slow to want to update a lot of characters. Now, with the recent patch update that we've gotten, which added like a bunch of filler palettes to maps that already were extremely palette dense, it does inevitably nerf more killers, which is a massive problem, I would say, when talking about this type of discussion, especially because they frame it as a quality of life change to prevent dead zones in areas, but the only maps that were really extremely prevalent with dead zones were specifically the farm maps, which I'm, in the gameplay that you're seeing in the background, that's one of the maps that I would say was notorious for having dead zones. So adding more pallets to that map, okay, that makes sense. Adding more pallets to the farm maps, that makes sense. Like those, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, I've seen it plenty of times when I go against teams that they're usually, when I'm breaking a good like chunk of the pallets, like they're really not that many, and that is definitely fine, right? Like you can definitely make other maps a little more balanced out because they already lack a lot of pallet. And I have also heard Haddonfield was a bit of a problem when it came down to pallet spawns, but I think that they might have overdone it a little bit with the current Haddonfield in consideration to the strength of the pallets that were already there. And my thing is with adding a change that's this important, like when you're changing a map, like maps to this drastic amount, like it needs like nuance, in other words. Like it's, if you like, that's the thing when you're trying to update a game like this, is that like when you try to like have a blanket update, there's always going to be something that suffers. And in these instances, when we're having an update like this, it really hurts a lot of the lower tiers. And of course, nobody plays, I would say a vast majority don't play the low tier. I'm obviously, a Ghostface main, as you can probably imagine. And I try to speak for the lower tier experience because that's what I have dedicated most of the playtime to. And I try to offer that perspective in comparison because I know that other characters are just simply not as affected by the maps, just in general, right? Now, there are some exceptions that like their powers are slightly adjusted because of the map's design and stuff like that, which we've seen with Unknown, with like really terrible collision and stuff like that. But with a character like Ghostface or other M1 killers like Trapper or even Skull Merchant with the current state that they're in, changes like these are going to directly nerf them, which they don't really need to be nerfed. And that, I think, also opens up the discussion about how difficult it is to actually balance this game in the first place. But yeah, like looking at this like topic of map bans and at least talking about the palette changes, the issue obviously is the maps, of course, but also we have to really also remember that a map ban is not the solution, right? Now, I thought maybe buffing up the lower tiers could be something. I also thought, what if they were to adjust the maps accordingly? And obviously they, Behavior has currently went into the route of updating the maps. And with that being said, that's sort of the problem. Because like they listed off of a lot of maps that historically just were very palette dense. Like they really did not need any help, really. Like Ormond, I would say is one of the biggest maps in the game that have plenty of safe pallets. I would say that there are literally probably zero dead zones even before the patch. So I don't know why Ormond was in that list. I've seen Yamaoka was in there too, which I also disagree with Behavior on that. I don't think I've ever seen a dead zone in Yamaoka before, to be honest. Like even in the 2v8, it was like Yamaoka on steroids. Like there was a pallet every 3 steps. Like there was really no question about which maps had enough pallets and which didn't, to be fair. Haddonfield, you could have made an argument. I can let that slide, but Yamaoka and Ormond is crazy work. I don't know who in the studio greenlit that. That was insane. Because to be fair, like they really are not that, they're not that scarce with resources. I really don't understand that. And I don't know if they mentioned Larry's in there too or something like that. I don't have the patch in front of me to be able to read it off, but from what I've seen, like there has been some very disgusting like amount of pallets lately. It's actually been insane. And I really have no idea what the heck is going on. When the patch dropped, and I even went on like Eerie of Crows and other maps, like when I was playing before with Ghostface, I really didn't notice the changes that much. But when I played recently on stream, it just seemed like almost every single map like had a brand new filler connecting to a brand new filler connected to another jungle gym. It was as if it was Garden of Joy, but like copy pasted onto a brand new map version, where you just are completely like just covered in just wood chips, like because you're breaking and breaking and breaking, and it's like, yo, like how many pallets am I gonna break today? Like this is insane. And the thing is like obviously it can be said you shouldn't be breaking every single pallet in the map. Like that's already that touches on skill issue. However, there are some pallets that are just by their definition are so strong that you have to break them. And even some fillers with the current patch nowadays, you kind of have to break them, because if I decide to loop a filler, I've seen fillers that connect into fillers that connect into, like I just said, into the jungle gyms. So then I'm forced to break the filler, which wastes more of my own time, and then I have to somehow, you know, make up that time in another chase, but then they can just run to another filler which connects to another jungle gym. So then I have to decide, do I play the jungle gym, or do I have to play the, like, do I try to play the filler that also connects to the window of the jungle gym? So like these decisions are rough, you know, like it's really forcing these situations that really shouldn't have been in the game in the first place. And I'm not really against having more depth on Killer. Like Killer is literally like has the depth of like the deepest depths of the ocean at this point, I would say. And it has so much to learn and so much information and so much skill that you really need to have. And that's why I would imagine that the vast majority of people that are on Killer are not going to be at the top level of you know, the leaderboards and things like that. Like, of course not. You know what I mean? And I just think that's a statement to how impressive I would say Killer is, in terms of how much there is to learn and understand and be able to counter. And you know, it's just like such a distinction when you compare the two sides, because it seems as if like the one side can just kind of look at the sky all day and, you know, touch a bunch of chests, and all of a sudden, you know, they can just win the game. And yet like you're playing on another side where you're having to like sweat in buckets just so that you could just get like a simple tie at the, you know what I mean? It's just such a distinction. And you know, it's a little bit of bias talking, a little bit of anecdotal stuff like that. Everyone's gonna bat for their own side, of course. So, you know, it's a little bit of some ranting there, but ultimately it just seems like that it just, at least from what I'm understanding, it seems like behavior really favors one side, and it just doesn't seem like they get, it feels like they have like a dropper, little droplets of stuff go to the killers, and then that's all we get, you know, little taste of something, and then you know, just basically have to work off of crumbs, while the other side is like feasting, which is insane. At least with the updates that we're seeing, of course. And you know, obviously with the current state of DBD, of course, at this point now, where like Karasu is like at the peak right now. Definitely not a great update, I would imagine, which probably has led to a lot of people just kind of having a bad feeling about playing the game nowadays, which of course makes the state of the game worse as a whole, I would say, because I think games are even harder to play now because Karasu is so strong. So all the Swifts are coming out, all the gen rushing is coming out, and it just gets a lot harder to play. And especially with a low tier like that I'm playing, it's just, you know, it's definitely going to be a lot rougher to play. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the, I guess, the changes and sort of like maps and stuff like that. Just kind of a bit of a yap session, kind of really unscripted, really. We just went off the dome piece and just kind of went with whatever happens. So but let me know your thoughts in the comment section about what you think about this sort of topic. Like, do you agree or disagree with, you know, what I've been talking about pretty much? Like, what do you think about the map changes? And just let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Check out the description for ways to support the channel. Consider becoming a member for exclusive perks, content, stuff like that, and you'll also get your name read off at the end of every video to show my support for you guys as well. But I appreciate you guys. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Well, I wanted to go ahead and take some time out to thank all my members from Patreon with Crow King 101, my YouTube members, Majora Jeff, N Dyer, Evil Peachy YT, Zero Mocker, Christian, HexDev, and Crow Vader, and for my Twitch subscribers, Cake is the Road, Danica 2002, Final Girl _ Bunny, Acklefin, Chili Cinderace, Zero Mocker, Ginsburg, Johns 117 _ Lovely Ghost TTV, Jar TTV, Zazaboo, and Crow Vader. Just wanted to thank you guys. And if you also want to have your name read off at the end of every video, make sure you join on one of these platforms to get one of those perks, as well as the other perks you get. So appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much.